Right. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Do I have to take that? I'll start again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank God for that. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to finish Surah Al-A'la. We've just got the last two ayat. And hopefully you know the whole surah by now. And then we will go to Asma al-husna. We've got a wiladat that night of Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. And I'll talk about him a little bit, and hopefully you can annotate your books as well. And obviously dua al-mujir. So somewhere along the line we'll get all of those things put in. But the first thing is to finish Surah Al-A'la. And would you like to recite the surah with me? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Sabbih isma rabbikal a'la alladhi khalaqa fasawwa walladhi qaddara fahada walladhi akhrajal mar'a faj'alahu gutha'an ahwa sanukrihuka fala tansa illa ma sha Allah innahu ya'lamul jahra wa ma يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيى قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. And that's the last two we're going to look at, which is إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى. Indeed, this is in the suhuf of before. Sahaf is one, papers, suhuf is a lot. You could call it scriptures, you could call it books. Basically, what Allah is trying to tell you and me is that this message is not old. It's a timeless message. It's universal. The message of Him being the greatest, the message of you or me using divine guidance, and the message of you and me being accountable. It's not something new, and it's ingrained into all of us. So, إِنَّ هَذَا لَفِي الصُّحُفِ الْأُولَى صُحُفِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَمُوسَى. Now, Ibrahim and Musa, for example, what book was given to Prophet Musa? The Torah. Okay, we know that much. What about Ibrahim? What was given to him? Anybody know? Trying to look. You've got it in your books, by the way. You can have a look and see how many books were given to him. Can you see it? I'm glad you read the book. Okay, got 10 books given to Prophet Ibrahim. Okay, the message doesn't change, and the message is ingrained into you and me. You and I both know that Allah is awesome, that He is the source of absolutely everything, source of perfection. When you and I say that we want to reach our full potential, and when the Prophet said, "Takhalluqu bi akhlaqillah," that's exactly what he meant. The very moment you and I admit that He is completion and I am not, He is perfect and I am not, and I'm striving towards it, that's all you require. That's it. But the moment you and I say, well, you know what, I can do this on my own, it doesn't work. And that's where dua al-mujir comes in. So I'm not sure, have you been reading dua al-mujir? Don't say yes, don't say no, just look at me and I'm good with that, okay? But I'm hoping you have looked at dua al-mujir. So the days to read dua al-mujir was 13, 14, 15, which was known as Ayyamul Bid. If you haven't read it so far and haven't looked at it so far, good idea to have a look. Okay? Even if you can't read the whole thing, at least annotate it a little bit. This is my dua al-mujir. Okay? So let's just go over some of the points. I was looking at the program that came from the Islamic Center in London. You know the Islamic Center in London? You know where it is, don't you? I only know that it's opposite the restaurant called Quiche. Shows you where I go a lot, okay? So it's over there. When I looked at their program for today, it talked about Imam Hassan, but it also said an invocation using the 99 names of Allah, which is actually dua al-mujir. Now, if you annotated dua al-mujir and you went through it, and I know many of you find it difficult because of your children, but maybe when the children have gone to sleep, or maybe after Fajr, I don't know, whatever time works for you, you'll find 88 times there is just one sentence. Ajirna minan nari ya mujir. It's 88 times. And the reason why it's called mujir is one you take safety in. Now when it says, save me, or protect me, or I take refuge in you from the fire, it's not only talking about the fire of Jahannam, it's also talking about agitation here. So say you can't manage the whole thing. At least you know, Ajirna minan nariya mujir. Now if you went through all those names, there's 180 asma'ullah. 180 names of Allah. How many in Joshan Kabir? 1,000. Right? They're elaboration of these 99. So then if you went further and you looked at those names, there's 93 of the 99 names there. So the Asma al-Husna that you and I are doing, there's 99, isn't there? Right? So 93 appear in Dua al-Mujir. So let's look at the other 6, because obviously the 93 you can tick off and you can look in your book. So the ones that are not there are Razak, Alim, Qabid, Basit, Malik al-Mulk, and Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. Now let's look at Razak. Razak is an intense form. If you've done Arabic at all, you know that some verbs have an intense form. So Razak is intense. But in Dua al-Mujir, you'll find Razik. So you can tick that off. Then you have Alim, for example, which is again intense, but you'll find Alim in Dua al-Mujir. You have Malik al-Mulk and you will find Malik. You have Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, you'll find Jalil and Kareem. So the only ones you don't find are Qabid and Basit. And look through the whole dua. Out of all the 99 names, those 2 are missing. So you and I need to think a little bit further. See, Quran says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمَ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Why don't you ponder over the Quran? Is it because you have locks on your heart? Now, very often, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. I'm a koji, and I say that so many times because I love being a koji, okay? I think it's one of the most awesome things my grandparents gave me, or my parents, or whatever, or God placed me in this family where I am really proud to say I'm a Khoja Shia Ithna Ashri, mom of 5 and grandma of 9. That's all I am, okay? I absolutely love it. But the problem with me as a Khoji is that I pare without thinking. Sometimes I don't even look at the translation. I just read. So, I'm asking you, 2 names, Qabid and Basit, they are not in Dua al-Mujir. Yet, it is an invocation of refuge, is it not? What does Qabid mean? Oh, come on. Wake up a little bit. Qabid, to constrict. To constrict so much that the scholars say, imagine your soul being put through the eye of a needle. You know when you feel like you're so squashed that you just don't know how to respond. You're broken completely. Your heart hurts, your soul hurts so much. That is Qabid. That is Qabid. And when that happens, you're told to do sabr. Sabr means persevere in whatever you're doing. Do your best and hand it over to him. But sabr isn't here. So you and I are told that when things get really bad, don't complain. Go to him, Surah number 12, Surah Yusuf. Look at what Yaqub says. Innama ashku bathi wa huzni ilallah. I only complain of my bath. Bath is grief that's been there for a long time. Huzn is fresh grief. Only to Allah. So the reason Qabid may not be in this dua is that there is sabur, or rather to do sabr, or to draw from the energy of sabr. Basit means to expand. Basit means when there's relief, when there's release, when you feel extremely joyful. So you think, well, if I'm extremely joyful, why isn't in this dua? You find the name Shakur. So we are told by our Masumin, and then obviously our ulama, it's interpreted the hadith to tell us, when things go really, really lovely for you, life is hunky-dory, everything's going fine, do shukr, do gratitude. Now, gratitude at all times is important as well. So instead of Qabid and Batit, which were the names you've got? Shakur and Sabur. And which number is Sabur, by the way? Which number is Sabur? Look it up. You cannot forget that, because it's not a difficult one to forget. 99, come on. I mean, it's not exactly rocket science, is it? It's the last one. There's a reason for it being the last one. And which one is Shakur? Come on. Look at your charts. You've got your books in front of you. Sorry? 35. Okay. So these are the ones that you need to remember. Okay, are you good with that? Thank God for that. Okay, right. Back to Asma al-Husna before I go to Imam Hassan. And your charts should look like this. So let's see what we've done. And let's see how much you remember, okay? Sorry about that noise. Right, the 3 R's, quickly. Rahman, Rahim, and Rauf. Look, if you forget anything, at least I know you know the 3 R's, okay? What was the 2 main ones? What I call the Ism Azam, sorry? Go for it. Hayyul Qayyum. Okay, 62 and 63. Then you had Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, which was number 80. 80 what? It's all right. My son was born in that year. That's why I remember it. 85. Okay. All right. The 4 for forgiveness. Ghafar, Ghafur, Tawwab, and Afu. What are the numbers? 14, 34, 80, and 82. I know I stick on the numbers for the sole reason that you will start remembering them like this, okay? What was the love? The Qalb Quran, remember? 36. And who was it? Ali. And who was the other one who was in your heart? Number 47, which was what? Wadud. And why do I say Wadud is in your heart? Because in the Quran, surah number 47 is surah to Muhammad. Okay? It's just a way of remembering. We also did Noor. I talked about Noor on Friday. Right? Noor is number 93. And in the Quran, Surah Duha is number 93. Duha is the early morning light. Let me talk a little bit about that before I go into anything else. So everybody gets sad. Everybody has times in their life when things are not going the way you want them to go. So the first thing you refer back to is look at what the Prophet did. Because Quran says, قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي. If you love Allah, follow me, which is follow the Prophet. يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Allah will love you, forgive you all your sins, and He is Ghafurur Rahim. Right? So what did the Prophet do when he was sad? Yeah? Good one. Praise to Allah. He walked a lot. And he read Surah Al-Duha, which is Surah number 93. وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا كَلَى وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى وَلَسَوْفَ يُؤْتِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَى وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى وَوَجَدَكَ عَائِلًا فَأَغْنَى فَأَمَّا الْيَتِيمَ فَلَا تَقْهَرْ وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ وَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ. So when you see 93 and you see Noor, think of Surah Al-Duha. You can put it in a corner there. And you know, whenever you're sad, if you look at the map of Quran City, and we haven't looked at it because we've been focusing on all these things. If you look at Quran City, we've put Surah Al-Duha and Surah Al-Inshirah in something called comfort zone. Inshirah and Duha go together as a group, basically. If I can say as twins, right? They go together. When you recite Duha, you will recite Inshirah as well. So 93 Noor, that's what we did. And maybe the other ones we looked at was Wahid, Ahad, and Samad. You remember? We also did Qadir and Muqtadir, 69 and 70. And I told you 45 times in the Quran, Allah says, Allahu kulli shayin Qadir. So you put Qadir with Qadir. Are you good with that? Okay, so those you know. And then what we also did was we went through the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first 3 or the first 4. We did the king, we did the, come with me, the creator. And the third one we did was the doctor. Yeah, we did the doctor. And the fourth one we did was the judge. Remember? So today we're going to do a teacher. You good? And I'm going to test you. I'm going to give you an open book test at the end. You might all disappear. That's up to you. But an open book test means all your papers can be open, all your books can be open, and you can refer to them. It doesn't... Life is not about memorization. It's about internalization. So you should know, if I'm stuck, this is what I would read. If I'm giving my child medicine, this is what I would read. Let me try and explain before I go into this. I'm presuming that every time you do something, you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Is that yes, no, maybe, perhaps? Oh, thank God for that. Somebody answered. Okay. If not Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, you say Bismillah, right? Before you give your children anything, before you step out, before you get into the car, before you walk out, before you walk in, and if you aren't, you better stand now. Now, when you say, I begin in the name of Allah, that name, which name? Which name? Which of the 99, or we did Mannan, which wasn't part of the 99, which name will you use in your head when you're doing that? So if I'm giving my child medicine and I say Bismillah, I will probably say either Ya Qawi or we'll say Ya Shafi in my head. There's something there that says, Ya Allah, I'm drawing upon that energy of yours that heals, or I'm drawing upon that energy that gives strength. If I'm sitting doing homework with my kids and I say, hello, say Bismillah, then I know that I'm telling my child either Alim, where there's knowledge, or Hafiz, which is maintaining knowledge, protecting knowledge, so on and so forth. But if I don't know them, how am I going to do it? Now, when I was a child, long time ago, too long ago, I had an aunt. I still have her. Oh, she's died, but I have lots of aunts. One used to tell me, don't start your paper without writing 786110. Have you heard that? You say on top of the paper, write 786110. No Arabic, because somebody might touch it. So you write 786110. I didn't know for a long time, but every time I started an exam, it would be 786110. Because 786 is the adad that I told you one day we will do numerology, is the adad for Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And 110 is the adad for Ya Ali. But then one day my grandmother told me, why are you writing this? Why did they tell you to? I said, don't know. It's magic numbers. So I write them everywhere. That's why I write it, right? And she said, well, you need to know the asma al-husna, because that's the name you will use. And that started a journey of learning asma al-husna. Let me give you another habit. I don't know whether you do it, but every time I went on holiday, on my suitcase I'd write Kitmir. Have you heard that? So why the haven't you write Kitmir? They say so that they don't open the suitcase. Who? Who doesn't open the suitcase? Customs. But hello, if I have to pay customs, I have to pay it. My husband told me many years ago, why are you writing Kitmir? I said, so nobody opens it. He said, who's going to open your suitcase? He said, so every time we go anywhere, he makes a list of everything we've bought. He minuses the amount you're allowed, and he will go into the red light, whatever it's called, and he will give them the paper, and he will say, this is what I have bought. I respect him for that, for teaching me that you don't write Kitmir because you don't want to pay your taxes. You have to do what is right. Right? So Asma al-Husna teaches you that. But tradition tells you, write Kitmir, write 786, write 110. Because now I know what you're going to do when you go on holiday, right? He takes all my receipts. He adds them all up. And I sit there and look in shock, horror. My goodness, look what I've spent. Okay. All right. And something else. Let's go back to this. So let's see how much you remember. As far as the king goes. Rahman, Rahim, Malik, Quddus, Salam, Mu'min, Muhaymin, Aziz, and Jabbar. Are we good with that? We know those 9, right? Let's go to the creator. What do we remember about him? The creator, the great one. Mutakabbir, Khaliq, Bari, Musawwir. Okay, then what was there? Ghafar, Kahar, Wahhab, Razzaq, Fatah, and Alim. Oh my goodness, we're getting there. Okay, next one. Actually, we did Alim before we should. So Alim was my doctor. Do you remember? The knowledge of a doctor was Qabid and Basit, Khafid and Rafi, Mu'izz and Mudhil, Sami and Basir. Are you good with them? And on Friday, we did the judge. You remember the judge? The judge was Hakam. Hakam is a judge. He had 5 qualities. He was just, he was adil, well done. He was latif, which was subtle. He was khabir, which was he was aware. He was halim, he was soft. And he was azim, which was awesome. Do you remember those 5 qualities that a judge has? It was JASAS, not difficult to forget. And the reason why he was those things was because he was Ghafoor and Shakur to Ali. Are you good? Let's go for the judge. Hakam, Adil. Then go for it. Hakam and then Adil. What came out of it? Latif and Khabir. And then? I can't hear. Halim and Azim. And then? Ghafoor and Shakur. And then Ali, which was 36. Are you good with that? Okay, you got to remember them. Right, next one. Now, this is the one we're going to do today, which is talking about who? About a teacher. Okay, so Kabir is great. So a great teacher, and I tried to write this down so we would know this. What does a great teacher do? A great teacher preserves knowledge. We know that. A great teacher preserves knowledge, and she nourishes her students. Are you comfortable with that? A great teacher, and a mom is the greatest of teachers you can have. So you look at yourself, what do? You preserve knowledge, and you nourish your kids. You preserve whatever you know, and you want to give it to your children to nourish them. Are you good with that? Great, preserve, and nourish. Now, what do you want your children to become? You want them to have 3 qualities. If you look at life, and you look at yourself as a teacher, if somebody asked you, what do you want your child to be? The first thing you will say is that I want my child to be accountable. I don't want my child to lie. I want my child, and I continually tell my children, I want you to be like your father, who even when it comes to customs, in going through customs, he will make a list, which is being accountable. I never want you to cheat. Never. Accountable. What's the second thing you want your child to be? You want them to be awesome. You really want them to be awesome. Doesn't it make you feel good when your child recites dua here? Or anywhere for that matter. Or your child, even at the age of 1 or 2, says, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, alhamdulillah, rabbil alamin, and you want to show it off to everyone. I say, hello. You say, or even if he says, twinkle, twinkle, little star, my God, you jump up and down. Didn't you jump up and down when they first got potty trained? That's not a big deal, but you did. Or when they took their first step, didn't you call your mom? Or didn't you call anybody else? Mama, she walked. Okay, big deal, we're all walking. But no, it was a big deal because you want your child to be awesome. All right, accountable and awesome. What's the third thing you want your child to be? Come on, look at your books. You've got it written down here, okay? Generous. You don't want your child to be stingy. You just don't. You want them to be able to share. How many times have you told your child share? How many times? And how many times have said, no, this is mine. I'm not giving it to you. But you want them to share. So you want your child always to be able to share. Okay, what number was share, by the way? What number was it? 42. So I want you to be 42. I want you to be 40, 41, 42. And you'll never forget that you want them to be accountable, you want them to be awesome, and you want them to be generous. You know, I've been at workshop for many, many years. I can't even remember, 40 years maybe, whatever it is. But there is still one child, and there's always one child amongst those ages. Every time, maybe God creates them to teach us all how to share. He will go and get chips from we have the 2 shops there which sell chips. There's always one which will come up to you and won't eat his chips unless he shares. And honestly, from the bottom of your heart, you want to say, may God bless your mom and dad. It can't come from anywhere else. It can only come from mom and dad. It cannot come from a teacher, because we do what little we can in that small bit we have. But can you imagine the du'as that leave your heart? There are many times on a Saturday that I have fasted, but I have broken my fast because a 5-year-old comes up and says, please have a chip, I won't eat without you. You just break it, because there is no way you can fast when a child like that comes up to you. And from your heart comes a genuine dua for their parents. It's generosity that makes a difference. So AAG, are you good with that? You want your child to be 40, 41 and 42. Are you good with that? Now how can you do it? You can only do it if you have 3 things. If you're 43, 44 and 45. If you are watchful, you're always watching. You're always there looking at what's happening. You answer them. If you are generous and answer their calls, they will answer yours and they will answer other people's. And finally, the last one, which is you have a vast knowledge of them. Every child is different. But if you don't have a knowledge of your child, it's quite difficult to work. So let's go over this teacher again. What is a great teacher? I'm talking about a great mom here. So if you look at a great mom, what are the 2 things she does? She preserves and she nourishes. And what are the 3 things she wants her child to be? Accountable, awesome, and generous. And what were those numbers? 40, 41, and 42. Can you see how you remember them? So now if I said 40, 41, and 42, you might forget all the others, but you will know AAG. You want your child to be accountable, awesome, and generous. And finally, the other things that we said, 3 has to be, 3 other things. She wants 3 things from her children, but she has to be 3 things, which is Raqib, Mujib, and Wasi. Raqib is watchful. Mujib is answering, or she will answer her child, everything her child wants. It doesn't mean you give what your child wants, but you will answer them. And no is also an answer, by the way. It doesn't have to be yes all the time. Your child came up to you just before bed and said, I really feel like having some chocolate. What are you going to say? No, that's an answer. Okay? You may have some tomorrow. But if you just kept quiet and didn't answer, they will think that you are blanking them. Right? If a child calls you and you don't answer, it's one of the most awful things a mother can do, okay? Anyway, it's not parenting today. And the last one is wasi, because you have a vast experience and a vast knowledge. Okay, let's go over all of them. Rahman, Rahim, Malik, Quddus, Salam, Mu'min, Muhaymin, Aziz, and Jabbar. Okay, now we're going to go on to the Creator. Mutakabbir, Khaliq, Bari, Musawwir, Ghaffar, Qahar, Wahhab, Razzaq, Fattah, Alim. Okay, Alim, we went on to the next one. Alim was Qabid and Wasit, Khafid and Rafi, Mu'izz and Mudhil, Sami and Basir. Okay, now we come to the judge. So Hakam, now you got to think, the judge has 5 qualities, which is Adil, Latif, Khabir, Halim, and Azim. And why? Because he is Ghafoor and Shakur to the Ali. Now when come to the mom, and you'll know her. A Kabir mom or a Kabir teacher is one who is Hafid and Muqit. By the way, Muqit, the reason why I said nourish, it comes from the word Qut. Qut actually means personalizing nourishment. Razzaq is one who nourishes, who gives you your rizq. But Muqit is one who actually personalizes what you need. And that's basically what a mom does. You know which child can take what. You may have a child who's allergic to something, and you won't give them that, which is being Muqit, right? I remember going on holiday somewhere, and there's these children sitting near us, and this mom was giving them food, but this particular child, she only gave bread. And I'm thinking, all these have a full breakfast of, eggs and, I don't know, hash browns, and this child just had bread. But then something in you told you, a mom wouldn't do that. There must be something that child is allergic to. And she did come up and she said, I know I look a bit mean, but that's only because he's allergic. Because we're watching it thinking, what are you doing? So in the same way, Muqit. The reason I told you this story is you don't forget Muqit, okay? So a mom is Muqit. So where else were we? What does she want her children to be? 40, 41, 42. Hasib, Jalil, and Kareem. So can you imagine telling your child, I want you to be 40, 41, 42. And the child will look it up and you'll know what it is. And then this mother has 3 things as well. Wants a child to be 3 things, but will be 3 things. One is Raqib, one is Mujib, and one is Wasi. Mujib always goes with Qareeb. So if you remember, I told you that in brackets in Mujib, put in Qareeb. Because Allah answers because He's always near. Now as a mother, you probably know, and as teachers we know as well, as a mom you probably know, that if your child hurts and your child is millions of miles away, you hurt as well. There were many times in my life when I would call my mom because I was upset or something, and she would say, I knew you weren't well. I know something's not right with you. What's happening? So inside you have an inbuilt system which is connected to your children, and you know something is not right. There are times you may want to call your child and say, is everything all right? And they'll just burst into tears. That's what moms do. Okay, so moms, teachers, we're in the same place. Right, we're going to go to Imam Hassan. I've got 5 minutes. I'm just going to go into him very quickly. Some good facts or some facts that we need to know about him. The first one is that he was the first grandchild of the Prophet. Phenomenal, And we always hear, Hussein minni wa ana minal Hussein. Yet the Prophet always said also, Hassan minni wa ana minal Hassan. So don't forget that. A phenomenal man. He wasn't a personality, it was just something else. He lived for 47 years. Okay? At the age of 8, he loses his grandfather and his mom. from 9 to, and I'm going to look till about 32, he's with Imam Ali. And he watches what people do to Imam Ali. Because Imam Ali it is his right to be the Khalifa as such. And they take it away, but he takes it with dignity because he wants to preserve the ummah, right? At 32, Imam Ali becomes, as you say, he accepts the khilafat when people force him to. So you have a period between 32 and 37 when he's with Imam Ali, and they sort of undo everything that was done that was wrong and bring in what you might call what the Prophet taught, unadulterated prophetic traditions. At 37, Imam Ali dies. When Imam Ali dies, there were 40,000 people who gave allegiance, who says, yes, you are our Imam. But by the end of a month, there were 20. Because Muawiyah had coerced them, or it was a lot of politics going on. Yet he didn't say anything, nothing at all. When he was 37, he thought, this is not working. So he agreed for a ceasefire. Because the situation was such that those who followed Imam Ali, or you call themselves Shias, were persecuted. So he agreed a ceasefire to stop all this. Muawiyah agreed to the ceasefire, but when he gets back to Sham, he puts the document under his feet and he says, this is what I think about it. Imam Hassan had moved to Kufa with Imam Ali, he goes back to Medina. But he uses that time again, like his father did, to undo what was going on. Now the Shias at that time, or the Muslims at that time, used to call him Mudhillul Mu'mineen. You know what Mudhill, you know what Mu'izz and Mudhill. Mu'izz is to honor, Mudhill is to dishonor. They said, you signed this thing and you dishonored us. They couldn't understand, yet he didn't say a word. He didn't say anything. Absolutely kept quiet. He would still say good things. There was a man who came who called him Muzillul Mu'mineen, shouted at him, told him all sorts of names in the mosque. He said, you look really tired. Come with me. Come home, I'll give you something to eat, something to drink, and then you will feel better, and then we'll have a conversation. So he eats, he drinks, and then he says, definitely the Quran is right. Allah knows where to put his message. If you look at Imam Hassan, and what should come into your head was, one, very well groomed, extremely well groomed. The second thing you find in him is his extreme generosity. Extreme generosity. He used to sit with the slaves on the ground, and these people used to pick up food from the garbage or from the sand, even bits that had sand on it, and they would sit down, but they would call him to come and sit with him, and he would sit and eat with them. So the generosity came along with a lot of humility. Imam Hussein used to get very angry. He wouldn't support this sort of injustice. And you also find that the revolution of Imam Hussein was phenomenal because he didn't accept any of the injustice. He said, I'm not going to take it. A life of being put down like this is not worth it. And that's what you and I, that's why we say, Kullu yawmin Ashura, kullu ardin Karbala. Because he saw what his brother was put through. His brother was put through the worst, the most awful abuses. Yet he would turn it round and he would take it on. It is amazing. So if you want hilm or you want sabr, you think of Imam Hassan. You give the wasila of Imam Hassan. When people are saying things that, there's so much more, inshallah we'll do it tomorrow. But when people are saying things that you know are not true and you don't know how to handle it, Ya Allah, I ask you in the name of Imam Hassan. Inshallah, we'll continue tomorrow. Let's recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Sadaqallahu al-azim. Please close your eyes. Ask Allah to give the thawabs to all the marhumin, especially those of your family. Pray for those who are ill and those who are in trouble. لي خمسة أطفي بها حر الوباء الحاتمة المصطفى والمرتضى وأبناهما والفاطمة. جزاكم الله.